At first, it was pretty tough, right? You know what? What the heck? Let me give it a try. I didn't go straight vegan at first. It was a big transition for me, and I didn't know what to expect at first. I didn't know that my body would respond like that. I was waking up a lot easier. I felt like I had more energy throughout the day. It felt really good to work out. It wasn't as hard. I felt like my endurance was up. It really comes down to your mental toughness. I don't ever see myself going back to eating how I used to. As I've gotten older, my body is just not as quick on that recovery time. You don't stop moving because you get old. You get old because you stop moving.
How's being vegan impacted your overall health and well-being?
That's a tough one. I don't preach, veganism to, everybody, is because...
Welcome back to another episode. Today's guest is a good friend of mine, a former powerlifter, a two-time half-marathon finisher, and a vegan hybrid athlete. This guy is currently training for his biggest challenge yet, his first full marathon. Without further ado, let's welcome the one and only Tristan. How's it going, man? Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, we have lots to talk about, but why don't we start from the very beginning, right? You are a vegan person, but you only transitioned in the last, 4 or 5 years. What inspired you? What motivated you to transition into this or to adopt this vegan lifestyle?
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, I actually, so it was probably like around 2019. I remember I was watching Netflix one day and came across that Game Changers documentary. So, after watching that, it was super interesting. It pretty much like followed different vegan athletes in different sports. Some of them were Olympic athletes, and they were performing at some of the highest levels, and they were also vegan. So the show kind of goes from like seeing their perspective and how it helped them perform, and the things that they noticed as far as their performance once they did go vegan. And after watching that documentary, I was like, wow, that's super interesting. I was like, you know what the heck? Let me give it a try. So, at first, I think I started off just with like a week. I think I went like I didn't go straight vegan at first. I went vegetarian and just kind of like cut back on my meat consumption because at that time I was probably eating meat like with every meal, right? I didn't even consider it a meal unless I had, some protein like chicken or eggs or even steak sometimes. So after I cut out that meat though, so I was like vegetarian. After that first week, I started to notice that, I was waking up a lot easier. I felt like I had more energy throughout the day. So yeah, after that, I was like, let me keep going with this. So after that, then I kind of kept it going, and then eventually, after that first month, I think I gave up, dairy also, and was just doing like vegan for a while. Um, and yeah, so it kind of that's how it kind of started me down this journey.
Were you expecting the changes to feel so quickly?
No, I honestly didn't. I was like, I didn't know what to expect at first. I was also doing, I was also working out at that time and lifting, and I think doing Camp Gladiator. But I didn't think that, I would notice such major, effects after cutting out, meat and all that. So, I was surprised and I really enjoyed it because, I was used to like, napping all the time, especially after I ate a big meal. I didn't know that, my body would respond like that. But, when it did, I was like, hey, I'm going to keep this going. Why would I, go back to how I used to eat if it just didn't make me feel good.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess that helped a lot having that response or that effect right from the get go. It told you, hey, this is the way I should go. Because I wonder if you had been if wonder if you had continued that if you could have been continued if you didn't have those results right right away. I think it would be hard to tell.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that, but I think you're right. That's why, usually if I do recommend, going vegan to anyone, I just tell them like just to try it out and see how their body feels because, you're right. Maybe if I didn't feel, better after cutting all that stuff out, I might not have kept going with it. But that's why, it might not be for everybody, but if people are curious, I always tell them to give it a try and see how your body responds.
I can only imagine how tricky would be the transition early on, especially if I put myself in your shoes, which I don't think that I could ever go vegan just because I've never been like a big veggie person. Plus, I like eggs, milks, and all of that. But I can only imagine how hard if you're so used to and you grew up in Texas and you're so used to the meat, the barbecues, and having all of these either big meals or desserts that have either dairy products or a meat in that case, how hard was to let that go and just transition. What was the biggest thing, or what was the hardest thing for you to let go among those all of those foods that you no longer eat?
Yeah, I would say that the hardest one was probably dairy because, at first I was doing kind of like vegetarian, so I was still consuming like cheese and, I was consuming ice cream. It was weird. That was the first thing that I noticed too, is that when I cut out the meat, I had like a huge craving for ice cream for some reason. So I was like, I was going to get ice cream at like Cold Stone and just like doing that a lot. So it was weird. But that was probably definitely the hardest, Marley, my wife, her hardest was probably like bacon because she used to do bacon a lot in the mornings. But, after, so I would say probably like a month I was doing vegetarian, and then I decided to cut out the dairy as well. And, and yeah, after that, I went a while. I went maybe like about 2 or 3 months with just like vegan. And then I was like, one day I was like, okay, I want to try chicken again. So I forgot where I went. I might have went to like Cheddar's, I think, or something, and got like this chicken pasta thing. And I was like, let me just give it a try. Maybe I was craving it that day or something, or just was feeling lazy. And I remember I ate that, and then I just felt like I swallowed some bricks, and it just like put me into the bed, and I just felt like so heavy, so lazy, didn't want to do anything. So that was my last like non-vegan meal that I ever had. After that, it's been vegan now. What? So yeah, 2019 is 2024 now. So yeah.
Around 5 years. Yeah, dude. I can only tell. I can only imagine how your body would just. It would be hard to transition at the beginning, right? Because your body's not used to it, and when you try to go back, then your body's like, nope, we got used to the new way. But in that process, right? Do you ever face any pushbacks from either friends or family saying, "Hey, is that weird? What are you doing? Why are you trying to go vegan and all of that?" Or everyone was okay with you going with that?
No, I would say at first it was pretty tough, right? Because, coming from a Hispanic family and, like I said, I lived in the country out in Lytle and, I even used to hunt and do things like that, right? So it was a big transition for me. And, of course I got, like a lot of my family and friends, they're all shit talkers. So they were always like giving me shit about like, oh yeah, you're going to go eat the grass, Sean. What are you going to eat? Your salad, and they're all eating like ribeye steaks and all that. So it was a little tough at first, but then I think maybe people didn't maybe saw it as just a phase, and they didn't think that I was taking it serious. So, but after the first, of course I still get stuff like when I go down there every now and then, but most everybody I know, all my friends and family, they know I've been doing it for so long and it really is just like a lifestyle change for me. So that doesn't really happen as much anymore. But at first, yeah, of course, it was always like I was the butt of all the jokes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can definitely see that, and I think one of the reasons why probably is not as much as right now as it was before is the same reason why I felt very comfortable for both of us to talk about this topic. You're a very rare type of vegan. You're not the vegan because the vegans I've interacted with or I've seen out there, they're trying to push their lifestyle onto you. It's just like you should go vegan, and if you don't go vegan, you support animal cruelty and all that bullshit. There's like, bro, just leave and let other people sleep. And we have traveled together, we have done together, we have even going out at dinners, and I can have my steak and have my burger, have my chicken, and you'll be totally okay eating your thing. So I think that once people realize you're not one of those intense vegans who want to change everybody's lifestyle, people understood, this dude is only do it for himself, and if it's good for him, then why not? I think that's why I guess the shit talker or the shit talk I've been going down ever since. It's like, you know what? But it's very easy to poke at the vegan guy. I mean,
Yeah, definitely. It's like, who can we make fun of? That guy.
exactly. There you go. But
Yeah.
so you and I, neither of us are experts on nutrition or anything like that. I mean, and this a disclaimer: I'm just trying to get your perspective, your opinion about your life and your life only. So, in your opinion, how's being vegan has impacted your overall health and well-being? How have you felt your body in the last whatever 4 years?
I feel like it's made a big factor, right? Like in my just my athletic performance and my training. Because, like I said earlier, like it really did make me more energetic. So that's like one of the things I first noticed. So, is that, I could do multiple workouts a day. I started doing like, and you knew me then. It was like, right before like pandemic times, and I started doing a CG Camp Gladiator, and yeah, it felt really good to work out. It wasn't as hard. I felt like my endurance was up. So that's like when I first noticed like doing those classes and running and lifting, and because I was still doing Gold's Gym at that time as well. But and then eventually I picked up running from my father-in-law. He was a big runner, and he got me into running around their neighborhood when we would go visit them, like during the holidays. And then I started to enjoy running, and that was pretty easy to me also at first. So, started doing kind of like a hybrid athlete, I guess. I never really completely gave up on the gym, uh, but I did enjoy running. And, before I became vegan, I honestly would think that I probably would have never picked up, as many different, workout classes and just cardio activities, just because of like I felt like my diet just made me lazy. It just really did. And that's kind of why I also don't preach veganism to everybody, is because I truly do believe that everybody is born different, right? Nobody's body is the same. So just because, I felt like that doesn't mean everybody's going to feel like that when they go vegan. So the only thing, if people are interested in trying it, what I tell them usually is just to try it out and give it like, a week or two, right? And see how your body responds. And some people might say that it responded negatively, and then I'll be like, okay, well then don't do it. But if you do try to go vegan and you see the benefits, or similar to what I saw, then why not keep doing it? But it really comes down to your mental toughness as well, because like I said, you do go through a lot of shit at the beginning.
That's actually true, and it is mind blowing to me how every single body is different. You have people like you have vegan, and it goes extremely well. You have other people that are there could be lactose intolerance, or people that cannot process meat very well, and then you have this crazy dude who's been eating Big Macs for the last whatever 20, 30 years of his life. He is eating almost more than 30,000 Big Macs, and the guy is skinny and the guy is healthy. So every single bite is different, and it's mind blowing to me again how something can work for somebody, but it completely ruin the other person. But yeah, do you ever struggle when you travel? to find variety of food when it comes to travel to places that maybe veganism is not as strong as in other cities?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that we travel to some cities where it's like, oh wow, they have like so many vegan options, so many vegan restaurants. One of our favorites is San Francisco because I would say that every vegan restaurant we went to in San Francisco was better than anything they had in Austin or even Denver. So that was a really big city that we enjoyed. But then, yeah, we do travel a lot, and when we do go, luckily we're fortunate enough to like travel with Inspirato. So a lot of times we give them the heads up when we're going somewhere that we are vegan. And most places, even in the most like rural countries, they at least have like beans and rice and potatoes, and if anything, those countries where that's what they predominantly eat, right? They don't really eat a whole bunch of meat because it's almost like more of a luxury. So yeah, I think at least they have a few things for us, and sometimes our vegan meals taste way better than what they're serving some of our family members or friends.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess it's becoming more and more mainstream. More, they're just offering you more. Whether it's just even as a simple Caesar salad without cheese would be kind of like the most simple, you know, vegan meal that you could find almost anywhere. I would assume.
Yeah, so I'm not a big salad eater. Like Marley loves salads, but I really don't eat salads that often. But if they don't have anything, right, I'll just order like some potatoes, some fries. I mean, sometimes I'll just order, at Mexican restaurants, I'll just order like beans and rice. But you got to make sure that it's not cooked with all the bacon and lard and everything. But no, usually when we go out to eat, we're not those vegans either, where we're like, oh, I want this plate, but just, sub this and take off this and do this. Cause, that's another way you could be annoying as a vegan. So, usually we prepare, right? So whenever we're going somewhere, we'll look at the menu beforehand. And, luckily most of our family and friends are pretty accommodating as far as like what they choose to eat or like where they choose to eat.
So you mentioned just recently, a few moments ago, that actually your father-in-law got you into running. And that is something that I wanted to ask you exactly what got you into running, because I think you and I started our journey at a very similar stage. I think mine started like a couple of years ago. When did you start, and when did you take this seriously, and when do you feel, hey, this is something that I want to pursue for the rest of my life?
Uh, yeah, so I think it was probably also in 2019. I'm thinking maybe 2020. I started running here and there, and and I think I just noticed that I enjoyed it, right? I think a lot of people, they might try out running and go running a couple times and be like, God, like I was so miserable. It's so tough. Like, I always tell people that those are some of the hardest things to convince people to do is to like, give up meat and start running. Like, I don't know why. It's super hard for people. But yeah, once you break through that barrier, I think it just for me at least, it became a lot more enjoyable. I like just running outside. I'm not a big treadmill guy. I feel like if I could get outdoors and being nature, that's what I prefer to do. And yeah, I know when we started running together, what's the park we used to hit up in Austin?
I think
Mm,
Walnut Creek, right? Is it
what
Walnut
was it?
Creek, maybe? Walnut
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 Creek,
Creek,
yes, Walnut
yeah.
Creek, yeah. So that's a big one that I used to run a lot. Used to run just around my apartment there in Austin, and yeah, I just enjoyed it. And then once I started watching more YouTube videos of like other runners, and it kind of pushed me to want to keep training, and then eventually started dabbling with those half marathons as I like kind of increased my mileage.
Yeah, that is something that, yeah, I can definitely relate to that. At the beginning, once you start running, it is hard and it's miserable. And I think, and I've said this to other people that don't run, I think that the main reason is just because we tend to run too fast at the beginning, and it's not that we're sprinting, but I remember the very first run I did before the first half marathon that I ran. I tried to go outside, and my goal in my mind was to run, I say like a 10, 11 minute mile and see how long I could last. But this was the first time I had actually a watch with GPS that could tell me the pace. So I started running. A couple of minutes into it, I look at my watch. I was running like an 8.5 minute mile. Didn't feel as a sprint, but then I knew that I could only last 5 minutes, 10 minutes just running at that pace. So if you're not aware of how slow you need to run at the beginning, you run 5 minutes. Like, okay, gee, I cannot even run for 5 minutes. Imagine running 5 miles or 10 miles. But once you overcome that either mental hurdle or that physical obstacle you have, then in my case, I fell in love with the sport. I fell in love with running, and I cannot see myself not running.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. When people think about, runners and running, they think of like full on sprinting. And, yeah, the longer I've done it, like the more I do it, it's been a few years now, I start to realize it's actually about going slower than faster. So, lately, I've been training for the Colfax Marathon. And I've really been, keeping an eye on my heart rate and, going slower and just trying to prepare for it and get used to being on my feet for that long, because I think that's a big one. I'm not really going to go into this marathon going for time or anything like that. I really just want to finish it.
Well, I mean, again, even and I said anybody, whether you finish a 5K, a half marathon, or even a full, there's a lot to be proud of. And I mostly when I tell that to people, I tell it to myself. I get obsessed with the time. I get to be obsessed on how fast I can go and all of that. But yeah, it's true. Even once you finish it, you realize that less than 1% of the population in the U.S. are finishing a marathon. So that already puts you on a different level than most people. But in your case, while you're training for this marathon, are you preparing mentally as well, or you're just seeing as you go? Just like, well, I don't know what I'm going to expect because I don't know what I don't know. I'm just gonna train physically, and then we'll see how I do it on race day.
Yeah, I would say that, as far as like the mental aspect of it, I try to learn a lot from, people's YouTube videos, other runners that I follow, and, see, go into Runner's World and, see people's strategies right now, following training plan. And I'm trying to stick with that, right? Because it is easy for me to go out and, it might be a 3 mile day, but I'll be like, oh, I can do 6 miles, or oh, I can do 8 miles. And for me, it's like, cutting back. Even though you feel like you can go longer or farther, it's best to not, because, I start to see how they lay it out as far as, just building up your mileage week over week, but mainly on those weekend long runs, right? So gonna stick to this plan and see how I do. Uh, but yeah, the other day I did 10 miles and I felt pretty good. So that was probably more than I needed to do for that day, but yeah, I think maybe next weekend it might be like 8 or something.
It's a long process, and I think one of the hardest thing, or two of the hardest things, one, as you were mentioned, running slower, because it can be boring. It can be very, very, very boring. And the other thing would be trying to have a limited amount of mileage per week, and that even if your body feels like wants to do more, the moment you start doing more is the moment that you get injured most times. Having said that, I know that you have been only running for the last 4 years and actually racing for the last two. Have you faced any early challenges or setbacks during this journey?
Uh, as far as like injuries go, I know one time I was running around, where was it? It was in Austin around one of the like little lakes there, but I was kind of getting a little lackadaisical with my running, and I think maybe I was just overdoing it, so my legs were pretty fatigued. And there was like these like huge acorns on the ground, like I'm talking about like probably like this big, but and I was kind of dodging them, and I just like didn't see one, and I stepped right on it, and I sprained my ankle, and I was like, oh crap, and that had me out for a good like 3 months, maybe. I don't even know. It was a long time that it did not feel good. And that's another thing that I've noticed, as I've gotten older, my body is just not as quick on that recovery time. So, I was like, man, when I was younger, I used to play basketball all the time and sprain my ankle on the regular. And, it was literally take like a few days and I'd be like, all right, let's go, let's get back on that court. But now it does suck when you do get injured, because I feel like it does take my body at least a little bit longer to recover from that. So I've been trying to do, more mobility focused workouts. So I do that class pass here in Denver. So I try to switch it up, right? Try to keep my body on its toes, and, doing like yoga classes, like hot yoga classes. And, they incorporate some weights here and there. And then we go to a CrossFit class. And I also do another one that's more like functional workouts and like sport workouts that I really enjoy, because, I think that that's a big thing. It's kind of like switching it up and using muscles that you're not used to using. It's just good for the body and also good for running, right? Because like we were talking about my father-in-law earlier, and he did, I don't even know how many marathons, but he was running a lot, and he was a pretty big marathoner. And he was crushing some pretty crazy times in his day. But he did, I think he might have like overdone it, because he just recently, in the last couple years, had like knee surgery because his knees were like, acting up on him. And, he still has pain in his legs sometimes. So, so I know that at his time he wasn't, doing as much weightlifting, and I know that that is important to keep your muscles and joints strong for when you're, running, 26 miles nonstop, and especially if you're, keep doing marathons. So, my plan is just to keep, working out, keep lifting and running also, just so I could, have that longevity aspect of it, because like you said, I love running as well, and I don't see myself stopping unless I have to.
Yep. That is one of the things that I think most runners, including myself, don't do. That strength training, for some reason, I guess maybe in your case is easier because you were already used to weightlifting, powerlifting before you became a runner. Uh, but yes, and that is perfect, and that's ideal for almost any runner because you are avoiding injuries. You might have injuries down the road, but the likelihood gets decreased by just doing a lot of stretches, a lot of mobility, and a lot of strength training. I think that's one of the main reasons why I get injured so easily and so often, whether it's my Achilles or my plantar fascia or my ankle. And yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. It's tough to get used to finding a balance between doing something that you really like, in my case, running, and something that I might not enjoy that much when it comes to doing weights but lower body, which everyone or most people hate like that anyway. So, and that's key. I don't even talk about yoga. Yoga, I tried a few times. I really did. Not for me. I get bored within 20 minutes. But yeah, that is absolutely great. When you became a runner, you were already a vegan. Um, how was can you tell me some of the insights between your weekly runs or your weekly training with your food intake? Because and the reason I'm asking you this, because when I started running back in 2022, I kept eating the same way I used to eat. And within 2 months, I lost 15 pounds. I wasn't looking forward to it. I rarely weighed myself. And then I realized I had to eat a lot more. and have a lot of calories that you don't see that much in vegan food. Vegan food are lower in calories than your fatty milks or meats and things like that. Do you have to change your diet, increase it, or change a bit in order for you to keep training um, as a runner?
Yeah, I would say that when I first started, running, I was already a vegan, and and I feel like that, I've always been a big eater though. So like even before I became a vegan, it's crazy to think that, the biggest I think I ever was, I think it was like almost 230. So that's pretty heavy, right? Because I'm like almost like 5'11", and so that was the biggest I've ever been in my life. And then I was like, I saw a picture one day and I was like, oh my God, you need to do something. So yeah, but when I was vegan and started running, I was still eating a lot. And, at first when I became vegan, I didn't know exactly what to eat. I didn't know as many like vegan recipes, and I think a lot of it was just like me going to, my local HEB and getting like, Amy's products. So Amy has like Amy's burritos and like some soups and things like that. And then, I was eating a lot of beans and tofu. I've always been into tofu, but I did like drop uh quite a bit of weight. So I think maybe around the time we met, I was probably like maybe around like 200 because, out of high school and no, out of college, really, I always wanted to weigh 200 because that was back when I was like really thin and I always felt like, oh, I want to be like 200 pounds of muscle. And then I got to 200 and then I wanted to be less. So all that running did help with my weights, but I wouldn't say that I got like too thin. I was like, maybe the lowest I got was like 180. But I still felt like I had a good amount of muscle on me. And then, a lot of people call that the like vegan honeymoon phase because definitely when you go vegan, you're gonna drop quite a bit of weight, right? Just from that big of a difference in your diet. So I did lose quite a bit, but then I started running, started lifting, and then at the honeymoon phase, it like the weight started coming back, and that's an easy thing to get into. Also, when you do become vegan, is that every day I go to the grocery store and there's some new vegan brand or company that's putting out these microwavable meals, or you could just throw it in the air fryer and not all of that stuff is necessarily healthy or like because they do have a lot of additives and things like that, but I was going down that path to where every time I would see something new I was like, okay, let me give it a try, let me try this looks like good. And then I saw one YouTube video where the guy brought that to my attention, that it's easy to do that as a vegan, is just to go that easy route and just pick up whatever is new and all that microwavable stuff. But now that I've been doing it for so long, I try to eat more like whole food, like plant-based. Just this week, I just go and get like purple sweet potatoes. I get a lot of, like I said, tofu, beans, different like, sometimes I'll throw it over a salad, but like I said, I don't really tend to eat a lot of salads. Yeah, different stuff like that. Chickpeas, couscous, those are a lot of.
Now that I was when you were talking about all these different meals, all these different things that you eat and consume, and the weight loss and the weight gain, I thought about all the maybe misconceptions that we see and hear um, on the internet, right? When it comes or challenges, misconceptions and challenges you face regarding either protein take or other essential nutrients. In your mind, when you were turning vegan, I'm assuming that you did a lot of research, or somewhat, because you wanted to see if it was good for you, because at the end of the day you are an athlete and you want the best for your body. What was what were, do you find any surprises when it came to what you used to hear about whether it was the amino acids or the protein intake needed or the nutrients, and what you found out once you became vegan?
Yeah, like the big one that they say, people that are vegan might be low on is like B12, I think it was. And I actually did get blood work one year and it was low. So that's like one of the supplements that I didn't used to have to supplement before I went vegan. But other than that, I think most of it was, an improvement, like as far as when I got like my physical. So I think that, other misconceptions, right, is the like you don't get enough protein and all that. And, I follow other like, YouTubers like Nima, I don't know his last name, but he's a big influencer in the vegan world. And, you definitely can maintain that protein intake. You just have to be more mindful of it because I think that it's easy to like overeat on the carbs and the fats and not get in as much protein. So, I just recently started to track more of my macros and started to notice that. So, I've been trying to up my, protein intake just with, protein shakes. I've tried all the brands out there. There's vegan, what was it? It was like there's a lot of vegan proteins, but I think the one that, I have right now is called Vega. And then, there's a Beam of vegan protein, and there's a lot of different ones out there. But, but yeah, so I eat a lot of the protein shakes and then just try to be more mindful of getting in that like seitan, tofu, beans have a lot of protein and other sources just so I could, make sure to keep that up just because I'm working out again so much.
What's your target when it comes to your macros in protein? Because I know that because one thing we tend to hear a lot is if you're an athlete, if you're somebody who's very active, you should eat 1 gram of protein per pound. Do you have like a specific targets like I want to hit 180, 200, 160, and how do you dabble and how you reach that daily goal eating foods that still they have protein, but it's not as easy to reach those goals as if you were eating meat?
Yeah, so I noticed that the more you weigh, it's harder to hit that goal in protein. So I'm hoping to lose weight and that'll be easier. But yeah, I just like I mentioned, like I'm trying to do like a protein shake like in the morning and in the evenings, and then I've even some days been doubling up on those scoops. But then also I eat a lot of tofu and beans, and I've been tracking that, and then we eat like a protein pasta, right, that's high in proteins, and then protein bars. So there's a lot of different foods that give you protein. It's just being able to find those foods and make sure you incorporate those into your diet. But some of my in-laws, like some of my family members too, they're pretty big on like, cutting carbs and all that. And, I try to tell them that, carbs are good for your body. You just got to make sure that you use that energy because it's easy to just sit on the couch and eat spaghetti all the time and just like load up on carbs because then you definitely will gain weight. But it's okay to eat carbs because it does give you energy. And if you're like going out and working out like multiple times a day or doing 2 hour gym sessions or 2 hour long runs, you definitely need those carbs. So it's all about your lifestyle, and everybody's going to be different, but it's just really figuring out, what's the best, diet for how active you are. Because of course, if you want to be less active and you don't like working out or running or anything, then you definitely, have to, choose wisely on what you're eating. But then if I've seen guys that run like, almost like, getting close to 100 miles a week, and they could eat whatever they want and they won't keep the weight on because they just work out so much. But, so I would say like I'm probably like, in the middle there to where, my body, I could easily put on weight if I don't watch what I eat. but then I also try to stay, pretty active, so that helps. But I'm never gonna give up like food though. Like I would all like as long as I can, like I would much rather stay active and like working out a lot so that I can eat a lot because I do love food, and even being vegan, I still love to eat. So yeah.
See, one of the things you said that it was very, very true is about what your in-laws and other side of the family are trying to reduce carbs. And the problem with that is that many people are afraid of carbs because they look at it the wrong way. Potatoes are carbs, broccoli is carb, carrots and all of that. Those are good carbs. People associate carbs with bread, pasta, processed foods, which they are.
Yeah, burgers, McDonald's, and all that.
Yeah, yeah. But then you can still eat like a rich, even corn, a rich carb diet and not gain much weight. In fact, I probably you have seen this documentary on Netflix called Blue Zones.
Hmm.
How they I mean when you see many cultures, they eat a lot of carbs, but they eat potatoes, they eat corn, they eat those kind of things that they're good for you, but people don't associate that with carbs and they're just trying to run away from carbs. And carbs are the main source of energy.
Yeah, no, exactly. That was a good documentary too. Yeah, it's just like, because like I said, if you think back to like, primitive days, most of it was all grains and wheat and bread and everything. So, that's kind of what we were built off of. And, now that, meat's so accessible, I think people tend to overeat it, and it's just, so easy to get. But, yeah, just as long as you're using that energy, I think that's a big one, and to pick the good carbs, like you mentioned, because I eat pasta a lot. So, like that's one of our go-tos whenever we're like feeling lazy, or we've been working all day and then went to work out, and we'll just throw in that protein pasta, like I said, and just eat that, and that fills me up, and also it gives me energy for the next day for any of the workouts that I have.
You said something early on in a conversation that that for most people the two hardest things to do is just to um, not eat meat anymore and start running, right? So in your case, how do you stay motivated, or how do you keep a positive mindset when it comes to both running and early on when you were transitioning from regular diet to vegan diet?
Yeah, I think it's just because of how those things make me feel. Like, I think that, being a vegan and, having that energy to, you know, go to work, and then, or work out in the mornings, then go to work, then go to work out in the evening, and then, do long runs on the weekend, and then I think that they go hand in hand, because that's what I was going to say earlier. People might not want to even attempt running because they're not eating the right foods to like sustain their energy levels or to perform at that level. So I think that that's a big one, just because I want to try to stay active for as long as I can. It's always like, I see people, and, I read articles about people that are still, running and lifting well into their like, 60s and 70s. And, that's always like, an eye opener for me, because I'm like, people can do that. One of the documentaries, one of them said something that hit me. It's like, you don't, uh, you don't stop moving because you get old. You get old because you stop moving. So that's one of the reasons why I just stay motivated to, like, keep up with, it's not even my diet now. It's really just a lifestyle, because, I don't ever see myself going back to eating how I used to. And then the running, like I mentioned, like I just want to try to keep running it for as long as I can, just because I want to really see what, this body can do, right?
Based on that, do you have like big, massive goals, things that wanna that you wanna challenge yourself? Meaning, do you have things in mind that you want to try to see if your body is capable of doing besides running? Which, by the way, running your first marathon is massive, it's huge. Do you see anything beyond that, trying to push your body to its limits?
I would say that, who knows? Because right now, like I set those goals, and I try to set like, especially with running, right? Because I don't think as of right now that I'll be one of those people that's like, oh, I want to, run a sub like 2.5, full marathon or anything like that. Because in my mind, that's wild. But who knows? I do want to keep running. I want to run like, it would be nice, if I could run a marathon a year at least. But who knows? I might get into it and start getting faster and start wanting to run these crazy times. But, as far as like goals, I think really it's like just, staying in shape, staying healthy, staying active. I think those are my long-term goals. So as far as like, other goals when it comes to like working out or running or lifting. I think really it just kind of focuses around those three things. And then, who knows, I might try to attempt something crazy. I mean, now that we're here in Colorado, I do want to try to do the incline that's in Colorado Springs because that looks kind of crazy. But little short-term goals like that, right? And hike a 14er because that's big here. Things like that.
Yeah. Uh, it is wild to me as well to think me that I want to run all these major marathons, Chicago, Boston, New York, London, whatever. And knowing that to qualify, you need to run sub three, uh, it's just mind blowing. I don't know how can. It's funny because you need to run under 7 minute a mile, and I remember my fastest mile was like 6:20, and I was dying after 1 mile. It's like imagine keeping that pace for 26 miles. Yeah, it is. Hey, who knows? But yeah,
Yeah.
it is wild. It is wild. It is wild.
Yeah, and some of those people have been runners since they were little, So I definitely think that when people started running, back in high school, or they did cross country in high school and they just kept doing it, it's a lot easier for them versus, someone that started in their late 20s, early 30s and trying to accomplish that. I'm not saying that it can't be done, but it's just probably a lot harder.
Yeah, I know totally. But I like your approach, and this is something that I was talking to Duncan, Tanner's brother, on the latest episode. You keeping a healthy lifestyle, whether it's in your diet or working out, is you're doing a favor to your future self. You're making your future self healthy, a future self that can enjoy spending time with kids or grandkids, not be, not having any heart issues or diabetes or anything like that. So what you're doing now is helping your future self to live a better life.
Yeah, no, that would be like, a goal of mine is to, have kids and grandkids and still be outperforming them, right? That would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that is a goal that everyone should strive for. Everyone should, uh, because at the end of the day, what's the point of living life or trying to enjoy your family when you're sitting on a couch without being able to move or do anything about it? So, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's a big one. Yeah.
So, as a closing question, and by the way, I've enjoyed a lot our conversation. I feel that I got a lot of insights into a vegan lifestyle, and as somebody can almost live, no, not almost, somebody can live a very normal and natural fitness and athletic life by being vegan without any issues when it comes to uh, having less energy or being under fuel. So that is a very good information for anybody out there who wants to try this vegan lifestyle, but is afraid of maybe my performance will decrease. You're giving the example that in your case is actually the opposite. It actually help you a lot to increase your performance. But so this is kind of not related question, but in, what would you do if you knew that you couldn't fail? What would be that thing in your life that say, I really want to do that, but maybe some fears of, lack of, confidence or even thinking that you might fail are stopping you from even trying to do that thing?
Hmm, that's a tough one. Uh, I don't know. I've never thought of that, right? If I couldn't fail, a lot of the stuff that I do, strive for or attempt, like I know that I'm going to fail. If anything, I've gotten pretty used to failing. So it's weird to, have someone ask that question, like if I had no doubts that I was going to. But yeah, I'm not sure. That's a tough one. I don't know. I'd probably attempt some crazy stuff, right? Maybe like an ultra marathon. I would attempt stuff in my career as well. So things like that, I think I would, try. But I mean, like, who knows? Like I said, that could be stuff that I still try in the future. But as long as you're, trying to improve, trying to better yourself, I think that I've always competed, but competed with myself. So I think that that's a big thing, right? Like I said, with this marathon, I'm just not gonna go for time. I just want to complete it and just do that for myself. But I think that when people do compare themselves and like, oh, I want to beat that guy or I want to be better than this person, then that's when maybe they could fall short easier and be like and give up, right? It's just like if you have goals just to beat someone else, it might be easier for you to just be like, okay, I'm done with that now. But yeah, as long as I'm pushing myself and improving, even if it's a little bit, I think that that keeps me happy and that keeps me motivated and going and trying new things also because I think that's a big thing is trying new things. A lot of people are afraid to get out of their comfort zone and try new things. But, I think that, it's fun. It makes life fun and exciting.
Yeah, I mean, and I definitely love that message. Yeah, we can fall into that cliche of life is too short or be comfortable by being uncomfortable, but it's true. Even if it sounds very cliche, your life is too short. Why not experience the most things that you can during your short period of time, in this earth? So absolutely love your approach, and more people should definitely do that and just push themselves. Try to, you know, don't do something too crazy, but then start slowly building up to that, and you would enjoy it for sure.
Yep, definitely.
Well, Sean, it was an absolute pleasure having you here. I always have fun talking to you, and my goal is to at least join you for the half marathon in Denver. I'm still nurturing a couple of injuries that I have, but I definitely want to try it and see how I can do that and see you at the finish line once you finish the marathon.
Yeah, definitely, man. And like I said, yeah, it will be a fun experience for both of us. And I heard it's
Yeah.
a cool track that you'll be running. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'll talk to you later and say hi to Marley for me, and then was an awesome having you here.
Yeah, thanks again for having me,
Yeah,
Daniel. This was fun.
absolutely.